Hi, welcome. I'm Joan Dobbie. This is my niece, Grace Beeler. And back in 2009, Grace and I were talking on the telephone. And we were really upset because we've been hearing on the news about what's called now, they call it Operation Cast Lead, where Israel was bombing Gaza very badly. And both, well, my parents and Gracie's grandparents were Holocaust survivors, Jewish, and we were brought up always knowing that life is very fragile and you have to be good to everyone who needs help because so many people had helped our family. And here we were seeing our relatives and so forth involved in something that we totally did not understand in Israel. We wanted to understand. So we put an ad in Poets and Writers magazine asking people, saying, are you Jewish or Palestinian or Jewish heritage? Please submit poems that talk about the struggle. And then we said something to the effect, I don't have it totally in my head, but something to the effect of that we believe that poetry presents truth and truth can dull hatred. And we got poems, and I'm going to pass this on to Gracie and let her tell what happened next.
Okay. We got a lot of poems, and they were all amazing. And we had originally thought that we would publish something small. Joan has a very small press that she publishes chapbooks with, and but we had this incredible manuscript that just fell into our laps. So we thought we better get a bigger publisher for this. We can't just go to Kinko's and run it off. So we sent out some query letters, and Lost Horse Press in Idaho took the manuscript. But they said yes. But then they didn't publish it for about 1.5 years, and we sort of were waiting and wondering what was happening. And eventually, one of the contributors, who was a translator who had translated some of the Palestinian poets for the book, called the publisher and said, what's happening with the book? And she said to him, I'm not publishing it unless there are more Arab voices. And he said, I can do that. We had sent a lot of letters to a lot of people and not gotten good responses, but because he was a translator and he speaks Arabic, he knows a lot of people. So Morin helped us get a more balanced book and helped get many more Palestinian and other Arab voices into the book. Here we are. Yeah. So 3 years later, we finally have a book. It's not even officially been released. This is like the pre-release reading. It's been an incredible journey, and we're very happy to have it. I do want to mention that one of our poets, Sam Hamod, really wanted to be here, but he called us from the hospital today. He has bronchitis, and his doctor is not going to let him get out. He said that he had 3 reasons he really wanted to be here. One, first of all, to show that there are Arabs who want to be involved in this, and Arab Muslims who want to be involved in this. Second, to support the book, and third, to meet us. And we're really sorry that he's not here, and hopefully he'll be at other readings that we have. So in the interest of time, I'm going to turn this over to our first reader. We're so happy to have so many of our poets here with us today, and we're really happy to have you here too. Thank you. Could you say your name? And, oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. In order to keep the reading balanced, we have some of our poets who are reading also poems that are not their own, that are in the book, so that you'll get a better taste of what the book is like.
And Grace and I don't have poems in the book, but we did write poems around the book, and we're going to read our poems too.
Thank you very much, Joan and Grace. I'm not going to speak much because we are sort of in a hurry. I think the poetry is the most important thing. The only thing I will say is that this must be the only poem of my life that was dictated to me. I was in a Starbucks and it came to me and I wrote it, and pretty much 95% of what I wrote was dictated by who? Okay, the poem is called Two Stories. My father, no warning, told a story I'd never heard. Our wedding, spring of who knows what year. Old Jaffa Hotel, the Scotch House, best restaurant in Israel. 16 people on our honeymoon, a family affair. Arriving in Bat Yam, a threadbare and emotional Tel Aviv town, spotty workers and Holocaust survivors, my Aunt Fella with her enormous green eyes, a natural blonde, Marlena Dietrich, reincarnated as a coarse and great-breasted Jewish waitress running a workers' restaurant. She was angry at me once. "No, we're not professors," she said. I forgot what I did. But she held my mother during Nazi selections, hiding a strong right arm. On her balcony, with no view at all, she made the heaviest of all cholents. Beans, meat, potatoes, cooked for days, served on a table laden with memory. That's when it came like a wrecking ball. Not from the body of stories woven, the family mythology of Felix, Felix, father, the small giant whose tales shadowed my schoolboy life and distanced me from my slight existence. Now came a completely new story, how I resented the power of old friends, hardly seen for 25 years, to call forth stories of endless consequence. When I came to Warsaw from the Russian army, it was the end of '44. The ghetto was a bombed-out shell, but I found my old apartment building on Alevska Street. There was a neighbor. He recognized me. "Froyam, Froika," he called. And he told me what happened to my family. The Nazis came and took my not-so-old parents, my father who loved Schwitzbads, and my mother who loved Chopin, and my little brother Shmulik, the tough blonde lefty who'd wear his worker's cap to the side. They took them to the roof and forced them at bayonet point to jump off. That's how they died, Freud. That's how they died. Just like that, my father told the story he'd never told me. I blamed him for insensitivity then, but now know that such a story, not contrived, pours forth when it will. The tell tells us when to tell it. I couldn't get the images out of my mind. People spilled like beasts on bloodstones. I walked around for days in unknown modes without being. Years later, another haunting speech cast me once more from sight to thought. In our new apartment overlooking the Valley of the Cross, we had an Arab Christian contractor, Ilyas Atiyeh, from Ramallah. He was a large, slow, earnest man. No, sorry. He had a large, slow, earnest charm. A good man, I thought. When my wife miscarried, I told him. He cared. There was something about him. I visited him once, met his wife. She had the same quality. It was like that in Israel during the charmed years between 67 and 73, the Christian Arabs of Palestine. There were many once in Ramallah, Bet Jala, Bethlehem. They're mostly gone now. He had some young painters working in our apartment, our area above the beautiful valley where they cut the wood for Jesus' cross. I enjoyed talking to them, talked to everyone then. One sweet-tempered young man abruptly took a brush, dripping with white paint, and said, "You wiped Palestine right off the map, just like that." And he made a stroke, a minor one, across the side of the door frame. I was speechless, but now, in my muteness or dumbness, his grief overtook me. He was a young man, suspended in air, just like my father, identified with his younger brother, independent Shmulik, all of them falling, falling, falling with no comfort from the earth.
I'm going to read to you an excerpt from a journal by a very well-known Palestinian writer. His name is Mahmoud Darwish, and this is from his journal called A Journal of Ordinary Grief. What are you doing, Father? I'm searching for my heart which fell away that night. Do you think you'll find it here? Where else am I going to find it? I bend to the ground and pick up piece by piece, just as the women of the Fellahim picked up olives in October, one olive at a time. But you're picking up pebbles. Doing that is a good exercise for memory and perception. Who knows? Maybe these pebbles are petrified pieces of my heart. And even if they're not, I would still have gotten used to the effort of searching on my own for something that made me feel lost when it was lost. The mere act of searching is proof that I refuse to get lost in my loss. The other side of this effort is the proof that I am in fact lost as long as I have not found what I have lost. What else are you doing, Father? When I chance upon a pebble that looked like my heart, I transform them with my fingers on fire into words that put me in touch with the distant homeland. When we then became a language that can turn into flesh. Is there something else you want to say? I do, but I don't understand the words. For the woman I'm talking to turns into another exile. When you were young, were you afraid of the moon? That's what they say, but it's not true that children are always afraid of the moon. If it weren't for the moon, I would have become an orphan before my time. It hadn't yet fallen into the well. It was higher than my forehead and closer than the mulberry tree in the middle of my grandfather's yard. The dog used to bark when the full moon rose. When the first shots rang out, I was surprised that a wedding celebration should be taking place in the evening. And when they led me away to join the long caravan, the moon was our companion on a road that later I understood was the road of exile.
I'm going to read a poem by a young professor in Gaza City. It's called I Have No Home, and his name is Youssef El-Kedra. I saw clouds running away from the hurt. I have no language. Its weight is lighter than a feather. The quill does not write. The ink of the spirit burns on the shore of meaning. The clouds are tears filled with escape and lacking definition. A cloud realizes the beauty she forms, beauty which contains all good things, for whom trees, gardens, and tired young women wait. I have no home. I have a night overripe with sweats caused by numbness all over. Time has grown up on its own without me. In my dream, I asked him what he looks like. My small defeats answered me. So I asked him again, what did he mean? Then I found myself suspended in nothingness, stretched like a string that doesn't belong to an instrument. The wind played me. So did irresistible gravity. I was a run of lost notes that have a sad, strong desire to live.
Hi, my name is Dana Negev. I grew up in Israel, and I think it was 2004, I went with a group of the Israelis who commemorated all the villages the Arab villages that had been prior to 1948, and they also came to my village where I grew up, and before that it used to be a Palestinian village, and the people were expelled, and the village was just destroyed. This poem is called Shame. Today I saw a bumper sticker at the market. It said, "Shame on Israel," just like that, on a blue truck in front of me, and for a moment I thought, did they mean shame on me? But turning on my ignition, I said, in fact, I understand and agree, only I wasn't sure about the word shame on a blue truck, just like that. So I drove along in my black Subaru, protected from the cold and dust. My windows rolled up high, protected from the homeless. I hear in Brazil they can rob you when your windows are down. I drove along thinking, how long can we really be protected from the dust of the world? This illusion of security will pop with as much force as the illusion of the state of Israel or us Americans running the world. So far my car is still driving, but will I reach a sign tomorrow which says dead end? Indicating that we are reaching a path on which we can walk no more? Shame on Israel stings me like an insect bite as I remember Gaza, my Palestinian counterpart, after sitting in her home and taking it in mine, and still I don't use that word shame. Sham means there, Shammai means sky. Over there in the sky there is space for all our ideas to roll and turn, and who knows, tomorrow I may be walking rather than driving my car.
I'm Grace Beeler. This is my poem, Solidification. It's not in the book, but it's about how the book started. We went into any crack, any garbage pit, any sewer tunnel, under any loose floorboard, behind any wardrobe, in any cupboard, any barn, any attic. Invisible. Almost ghosts already, our shadows boarded boats going anywhere. Ghosts in America, in Argentina, in Australia, Bolivia, Brazil. We stood against the bright blue walls of Bogota, and our bodies became as blue. The Colombians walked past without looking. In America, we let our daughters be molested by rock and roll. We said, she doesn't even know. Better she should never know. We picked up our books again when our fingers were firm enough to hold them. And when the light was just right for a moment in the evening or the early morning, we looked nearly solid, except for the wispy tendrils escaping from our fingertips where we had reached and found emptiness. Our children, they looked like real children in the early years. We could bounce them on our hips and they would laugh in a way that made us want to howl and raise our fists at God. But we turned and faced the wall and counted to 1,000 because howling would only make a fuss. And the neighbors might hear, the neighbors might wonder, the neighbors might get on the phone with God and report the insubordination. When we finished counting, we went outside and cleared some of the brush from the yard and made a quiet place to sit by the water. We cooked and fed, more than just our own. We taught, wrote poetry, and healed the sick. And everything was peaceful until 6:45, when the clock radio clicked on. Your cousins are killing babies, said Steve Inskeep. They have rockets. They're shelling the houses of the innocent. But, we said, still groggy, we couldn't shoot a gun even if we wanted to. Our fingers would never be solid enough to pull a trigger. How can we be sending rockets? I'm serious, said Steve Inskeep. Listen. And he played a clip of a mother screaming. I can't listen to this, we said. I have to go to work. But the next morning he was back, insistent. They're still at it. They hit a school today. A school? What are you talking about, Steve? We don't burn books. Not ever. You know that. And we don't kill babies. My God, haven't we gotten past that racist stereotype already? We're ghosts, Steve. We don't make a fuss. We can't even have a conversation with our own God out loud. Yeah, well, said Steve Inskeep. Apparently they have some sort of gelling agent over there. I'm just doing my job, reporting the facts, keeping you updated. 75 more were killed today in brutal one-sided attacks. Don't say I didn't warn you. We stumbled out of bed, pulled on crumpled jeans and mismatched socks, went around the corner for a coffee and a chocolate scone, which didn't do a damn thing to calm the knots in our stomachs. We went to work, Came home, went to bed, woke clammy from another nightmare. People running, fire in the dark, blood everywhere. Pulled on the same crumpled jeans and sweaty socks, jammed a shirt over our heads, stumbled downstairs, groped, bleary-eyed for the telephone.
I'm still here.
Yeah. We're going to read a poem by C.B. Follett called Palestine. Let's do it together. Persians,
Romans,
Ottoman Turks,
British,
Jordanians.
Israelis.
He had a gun. It was a stick.
He aimed it at us.
His mother's broom.
It was black.
It was black.
He wanted it to be a gun.
He was 7.
Here is his blood.
I'm good with Iraq.
It's tough duty.
Just a little Palestinian David,
They're good with rocks.
right between the eyes.
The windshield crazed.
Aim right and things happen.
His Jeep went off the cliff.
We used to be neighbors,
We don't speak.
work together, borrowed.
Stay on our side of the road.
He can't help me.
Nothing we can do.
Collaborator. I want to go to school.
All classes are canceled.
There are no jobs.
And they want our jobs.
I want to write poetry.
They are rabble.
I'm lonely.
Always.
I'm empty.
Always making trouble.
I am someone.
I am someone.
We can't go out at night.
We must have a curfew
It presses like iron gates.
for your safety.
There are 14 in my family,
No more than 10 may gather.
so our house was bulldozed.
There must be rulers.
Tell me, are there still stars?
Okay, I'm going to read a poem called Bougainvillea by a poet named Rick Black. Candles are not yet aglow like sapphires. The braided challah is still uncut. Quiet beckons, and the last number 18 bus is packed. People are returning from Machane Yehuda, the outdoor market of Jerusalem. Inhale the scents of cinnamon, cardamom, and curry, piled high in mounds, the barrels of pickles, sour and half sour, the pickled herring, creamed herring, Matya's herring, and piles of fresh dates, smooth and sweet, and chocolate rugelach and babka, oval sesame rolls, challahs with raisins, and hot pita. And crowds shoving, bustling, hustling, bargaining, shouting, mobbing, elbowing each other, shuffling along beneath the bare electric poles, hanging, suspended like the lights of the George Washington Bridge, above the dukhans, malafaphone, 40 shekels, tooting, fresh strawberries, pil-pel, peppers, dressed in shrangles, flowing robes, silk skirts, pushing baby carriages, schlepping plastic shopping bags, speaking a melange of tongues, Hebrew, Arabic, French, English, and German. Shoppers ebb and flow like waves rushing and receding from shore. From one merchant to another, they gather like flocks of seagulls, then disperse past the green-leaved clumps of garlic, bulbous clumps, dark, hard like the noses of passers-by, bright, shiny eggplants, globular, go ahead, imbibe the scent of fresh-cut oranges, tongue the bits of, halva, gently press the avocado skins and squeeze the tomatoes at dusk on Shabbat, and taste the loaves of challah woven into the prayer shawl of our people's history. Emitting plumes of black diesel smoke, the bus leaves the market, stops at the central bus station, and chugs up Mount Herzl into the ethereal, blood-soaked air of Jerusalem, and there in the fading tarnished light, descending on the city and the Jerusalem pines, just past Yad Vashem, there the bus, its red and white sides gleaming, clinging to the hills stubbornly, and climbing up it like bougainvillea, there the bus explodes, skewering flesh, shattering glass, shrieking in the quiescent streets, and sobbing there, overturned like a beetle, helpless, writhing, unsilent there, like a crushed violin, its mangled strings, twisted notes, shrieking in the sky, and the ambulances wail, holy, 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 and the pines in the golden Sabbath sunlight, for candles will soon be lit, glow ineffably more beautiful than ever, and God remains in his own way silent. We are near Ein Kerem, Ein Keloheinu, Ein. There is no God like our God. There is no king like our king. There is no redeemer like our redeemer. And the angels cry and the ambulances wail, and survivors lie on the pavement wounded, having fallen down back in the Vitebsk street, a violin strings broken. But if you listen carefully, perhaps you'll hear wind in the pines, perhaps you'll see starlight glisten off shattered glass and off bougainvillea petals that are still climbing, reaching up in prayer.
Sam Hamod wishes he could be here tonight to read this, and I'm going to do my best to voice it for him, but I know it would sound different if he could possibly be here. There must be something dangerous about a zoo in Rafah, Palestine. Just yesterday, the Israeli tank came forward into the zoo, firing round after round. The cockatoos screeched, the macaws went wild in their cages, screen wires smithering into thousands of shreds of death, piercing the 2 a.m. night air, sending the raccoon into panic as his leg sliced open and the monkey's arm went limp with the crunch of his tree. Hundreds of parrots were caught in a large net and whisked away in the cab of the bulldozer, while another tank shell shattered the night air, carving in the roof of the keeper's work shed, where Mohammed Juma had worked for months, creating a zoo for the children of Rafah, the only recreation in this nightmare of Israeli destruction, where children weren't allowed to go out, fearing Israeli snipers. Old Lady Kamas wanted to stay in her house, bulldozer grinding toward her. Finally, her daughter dragged her, screaming from the falling wall that covered them both with cuts and dust, shattering memories, creating new sorrows. But this zoo, there must have been something dangerous about this zoo. Something that worried the Israelis, perhaps. Perhaps it was the smiles it brought to the children's faces. But now, the foxes run off, Juma says, but no one has any idea where. Probably dug in behind an old shell hole, shivering from the shaking ground as the tank grinds up the last of the bird enclosures. The bulldozer grabs and grabs and grabs, pushing the entire scraps of the defunct zoo into the swimming pool. The macaws cry out mournfully, covering the wailing of women, sobbing of children, the rage and frustration of Juma as he picks up what was left of the sign that says, "Welcome to Rafah, welcome to our zoo."
I'm going to read a poem by Richard Tillinghast, What is Not Allowed. No toys are allowed. No tinned meat, no tomato paste. No clothing, no shoes, no notebooks. No sewing machines or spare parts for your sewing machines. These will be stored in our warehouses at Kerem Shalom until further notice. Bananas, apples, persimmons are allowed into Gaza. Peaches and dates and macaroni after the American senator's visit. These are vital for our daily sustenance. But no apricots, no plums, no grapes, no avocados, no jam. These are luxuries and are not allowed. Paper for textbook is not allowed. The terrorists could use it to print seditious material. And why do you need textbooks now that your schools are in rubble? No steel is allowed, no building supplies, no plastic pipe. These the terrorists could use to launch rockets against us. Pumpkins and carrots you may have, but no delicacies, no cherries, no pomegranates, no watermelon, no onions, no chocolate, and no coffee beans. We have a list of 36 items that are allowed, but we are not obliged to disclose its contents. This is the decision arrived at by Colonel Levy, Colonel Rosenzweig, and Colonel Seagull. Our motto: no prosperity, no development, no humanitarian crisis. You may fish in the Mediterranean, but only as far as 3 kilometers from here. Beyond that, and we open fire. It's a great pity the waters are polluted. 20 million gallons of raw sewage dumped into the sea every day is the figure given. Our rockets struck the sewage treatment plants, and at this point, spare parts to repair them are not allowed. As long as Hamas threatens us, no cement is allowed, no glass, no medical equipment. We are watching you from our pilotless drones as you cook your sparse meals over open fires and bed down in the ruins of houses destroyed by tank shells. And if your children can't sleep, missing the ones who were killed in our incursion, or cry out in the night, or wet their beds in your makeshift refugee tents, or scream, feeling the pain in their amputated limbs, well, that's the price you pay for harboring terrorists. God gave us this land, a land without a people, for a people without a land.
I'm going to read a poem called Live from Gaza by Vivian Sansour. She's a Palestinian-American poet. Cats nibbling slowly on your flesh. There's all of you to eat, and all the time they need. 20 hours I'm watching you bleeding, and then stop breathing. And at this moment, eaten too. Your brother's body next to mine, shivering, losing blood. Father, call 101. Father, get an ambulance. Officer, I beg you, I'm watching my second son die, and you can let the ambulance in. Radi Aniyaba, are you pleased with me, Father? I want to die knowing that you are pleased with me, that the days I made you mad have not stayed with you, that my playfulness never hurt you, that I am in the grace of God, a son whose father is pleased with him. Forgive me, my sons, I screamed. I called all news agencies. My voice was even broadcasted on live television. I even pleaded that they would let me try to walk. I would have carried you on my back. The distance between your life and your death was only 1 kilometer. But the distance between my begging and the soldier's heart was infinite. And I heard you too, Father, all the way from Saudi Arabia. I heard you and Ibrahim and my other brother, Kassam. I saw you, Father. You were pleading. You were scraping the gravel with your skin. You were on your knees. Your voice was loud and clear, live from Gaza. My eldest son just died in front of me. My other son is bleeding to death. The ambulance is here. Call on Israeli soldiers to let them in. The hospital is near. Let me at least walk. I heard you, Father. You were loud and clear. Sitting in my living room, I watched you on live feed. I was one of the millions in their living rooms watching the live report from the ground in Gaza. The only difference was I knew your face. My brother's faces. I recognized my brother's left toes as they were photographed like petrified wood in a forest. I recognized his mole that no one noticed. Live from Gaza, Father, I saw you between 2 dead bodies and a military commander collapsing into tears. Forgive me, Father. I was in my living room. Forgive me, Father. They would not have let me through. Forgive me, Father. I was over 1,000 miles away. And I heard you too, Father, when the phone rang all the way from Saudi Arabia to Washington, D.C. My brother told me, our brothers are dead. Our father is in hospital, and we are not allowed back in. Live from Gaza, Father, I am here in the heart of the American capital, lobbying senators, calling human rights organizations, speaking on radio shows, sobbing as I speak. Can I bring Ibrahim back? Can I bring Hassan back? Can I even be let in to give you a hug from one of your remaining sons? Security reasons. Security reasons say that you and I are a security threat. The farm you raised me on is a security threat. My brother's feet, the songs we sing, the clothes we wear, the food we eat, and even our kisses are a security threat. Father, what do I do here? From the heart of D.C., I cannot even swim from this shore to the Mediterranean Sea. I am a security threat, Father. My loss could make me angry. My loss could make me mad. My loss, Father, could make me crazy. My loss, Father, could make me into a terrorist. I throw my diplomas and certificates away. Father, I never belonged here. And when the good people of this land come to hold me, they say, I'm so sorry about your loss. What do I say, Father? Which loss? My brother's? Your tears? Or the heart that has been carved into pieces? Father, I answer them. I say, I know you are good people. I want to stay faithful to what I was taught, to treat people with respect. But Father, I am a security threat. My respect, my lack of respect, the mere fact that I am from Gaza, Father, negates the fact that I am the son of a farmer, the son of a fisherman, the humble man of the sea. My identity, Father, is a Gazan, and when people look at me, they judge me with the lies they know. Palestine does not exist. Palestine is not a country, and your people are angry people. Why do you hate us so much? Live from Gaza, nothing has changed. I have been released from the hospital, but my 2 sons are dead, and the other 2 are in exile.
My name is Monica Raymond, and I'm going to be reading, can I get this down a little bit? Yeah. I'm going to be reading Sam Hamod's poem. It's called Sabra Shatila in Sorrow. It is nothing, the blood red into stony ground. Nothing. We can say nothing. The flares red, white, and blue. Nothing against black sky, faces blur. Nothing, sharp rope cutting to wrists. It is nothing, slash of knife on throat, girdling, knowing nothing. Phalangist Israeli, we hear phalange not spoken. It is in the face, Frangia, Jamayal, it is nothing. Mustache moves, nothing. These words, nothing. Thunk, thunk of bazookas, crunch of bone, nothing. It is nothing. The children run hiding under the bed like play. A man comes in. They say nothing. He laughs, tells them they'll be safe. Nothing, no sound. He shouts, come out. Nothing. He lifts the bed. Their big eyes open. He laughs. His Uzi sputters. They are nothing. Their flesh, nothing. Oh, it is nothing. Do not worry. They are nothing. It is nothing. Do not worry. Nothing has happened. Nothing. It is nothing. Say, it is nothing. So be peaceful, brothers and sisters. Do not run away. We are all Arabs. We will do nothing. It is nothing. We do nothing. It is nothing. It didn't happen. If it did, it is nothing. Oh, it is nothing, nothing at all. And now say it and believe it. It is nothing. 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 Oh God. Nothing.
My name is Doreen Stock, and I live in San Francisco. This is the first time I've read this poem aloud, and I wrote it. It was inspired by a photograph on the front page of the New York Times. So I'm very happy to be reading it here. Girls' Burial, Gaza, 2009. Patriotism, anarchism, martyrdom. The swift kiss of your older sister death, with blackbird eyes and feathered hair swept back beyond tribal wind song, her penciled eyebrow arching into sky. Who has come to bury you? No, not here, but tucking the bright orange cloth around you. From the very bolt of silk the arms were wrapped in. The Chinese, Russian, American, Israeli, British, Iranian arms that fall out and let you, warm little cartilage, elbow and throat, two knees, one with a scab on it, toes curled, hands slightly clenched, curly dark brown hair still damp around your quiet face. Let you fall in, not an engine of destruction, saying with your silence to every arms dealer in this war game, grown up and mad, why didn't you buy my life instead? Come to bury you in sky, tree, star, landscape, against this war forever. Amen.
If you think it's hard to hear these poems, let me tell you it was awfully hard to read them as they came into us more and more and more. And I'm going to read you a poem I wrote in the middle of the night dealing with this. The name of the poem is Blood and the Anthology. On trying to edit, poets respond to the Palestine-Israel struggle. And again, I'm Joan. Bloody clots of poem clutter my brain. The hungry baby sleep hides in a blood-stained corner and then leaps out for the light as if it were food. His mother yanks him from the window. Shattered glass lets in the wind and bullets pierce the kitchen walls. There is no fuel for the stove. All the children howl at once. The market has exploded. Another school bus has been struck. Careening off the highway bursts into flame. Wheels and children screech as one. Somebody's daughter is burning. Somebody's daughter will die. Retaliate, retaliate. There is no fuel for the stove, no food, no water for the children. All the children howl as one, and everywhere the bombs are striking home. Rocks fly from little boys' hands, useless as pebbles. My computer is choked up with other people's agony. My computer is bleeding. Only the red ink works. The clay I am trying to mold into shape is oozing other people's blood. I cannot keep my clothes clean. It's a matter of diplomacy, which now, when it matters the most, evades me. Take Lila, for example. Her husband bent with cancer, her homeland crushed and bleeding, herself in exile, her poetry exquisite, her rage too huge for any vessel I can offer. No, 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 I will not throw my poems to the swine. Outside in the olive grove where children used to play, the bulldozers lumber forward like prehistoric beasts. More settlements are being built, more walls erected,
more families uprooted. Rocks fly, bombs fall, a people is burning. Again the soldiers aim and fire. Blood is everywhere escaping. Thanks.
I'm Gloria Bletter, and I'm going to read a poem I wrote a few months after the Israelis left from Gaza. And I was there with a small delegation of people, mostly from the New York area. We went to see what had happened and to talk to the people there. And as you've heard, it was quite devastating what we saw. The poem is called No Safe Sky. There's an epigraph by an Israeli poet named Ella Bat Zion, whose work I don't know, but I found these 3 short lines and I thought they were applicable. She says, "Peace is a sea whose waves will carry us far. I meant to think drums and thought bombs. I meant to dream land and dreamt landmines. I meant to hear thunder and heard tanks rolling. I meant to see lightning and saw burning bursts of white gas and searchlights scanning the night. They warned of a place full of terrorists. I said they must mean full of terror. In the eyes of the children, in their frantic games, their paintings of dead men and homes without walls, they're running back and forth trying to hide from the sky, in their folded paper machine guns, gripped by small hands and pointed heavenward, and in the fast beats of their hearts. And those mothers, teachers, I saw wary eyes, heard words of worry, not only for the maiming of the young, but for fear that fear will grow up to hate. And all visitors and wounded ask, will more hate come along the green-blue line, along the beige beaches, fronting a sunny Mediterranean Sea?
In Kana. The Lebanese spelled it with a Q, without the U. Kana. That town where John said Jesus at a wedding turned water into wine. The other Gospels missed it. They caught other miracles, but they missed that first miracle. The guest said, "You're not like the others who just serve good wine till we're drunk." Later, Jesus said, "I bring not peace, but the sword." But in that first miracle, nothing of sword. It's important you understand this, you apocalyptic idiots, Muslim, Christian, and Jew. A good party, that was all. People dancing those wedding dances, lifting a chair like they still do. A miracle they can get it up there without dropping it. Or if they do drop it, without killing whoever's in it. But it's family they love there, so if they do a sword dance, it's just clacking them together like the Morris men. Minor miracle of coordination. At the revels, they clacked so hard you should have seen. They broke the blade. At a wedding, that would probably be bad luck. It might be good to leave the swords out of it for good. That's a disarmament proposal. What do you think of it? What if we acted as if the whole world were a wedding with good wine till the end? What if you left your sword at the door and never retrieved it? And you just kept dancing and drinking all night like that first miracle, and the wine never got less good? That would be a miracle. You know, I'm not just talking about the wine being good. I'm writing a little parable or a sermon for you. Yes, a dead prophet is not the only one who can do it. I'm saying we've seen what comes of bringing the sword. Now let's bring a covered dish and get back to the wedding. I like to think that maybe it's a wedding of people from different sides. Ordinary miracle, two black-browed lovers aflame like flowering swords. Gladiola, bird of paradise, what looks like a knife-edged sheath till it unfurls in good blossom. The angels each holding a stem of it at the door of the fiery world, and they beckon to you. They hold the flaming sword to protect the wedding, and they want to include you in this miracle. Not blood, but good wine that pours. Let us dream of it. I'm going to close by reading a poem by Naomi Shihab. She's an Arab-American poet who lives in Texas, and she has several poems in this volume. And this poem, Shoulders, is the last poem of the book. Shoulders. A man crosses the street in rain, stepping gently, looking 2 times north and south, because his son is asleep on his shoulder. No car must splash him. No car drive too near his shadow. This man carries the world's most sensitive cargo, but he's not marked. Nowhere does his jacket say, fragile, handle with care. His ear fills up with breathing. He hears the hum of the boy's dream deep inside him. We're not going to be able to live in this world if they're not willing to do what he's doing with one another. The road will only be wide. The rain will never stop falling.
So thank you again, and if you have questions, comments, thoughts, anybody wants to say anything in front of this microphone, it's here for you too. So, go for it.